My sister, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm always great when we're together. I
Good.
swear to God, it's like we've known each other for our entire life
I
because
know.
when I get time with you, I'm like, I'm so happy.
I know.
And I know we're going to have such a great conversation today.
As always.
As always. And you know what? We're just going to put it out there that 99.9% of the time, we have so much to tell
Yeah.
our community and our audiences that we try to, kind of go with whatever we're feeling that day. And today, you came up with such great, little things that we can chat about, but so incredibly important and impactful. And then how we started our conversation was exactly that. And I was about to give it to you without hitting record. So here we go. So you got asked a very important question from,
Yeah.
I believe, a colleague or a
Yeah. I got to
teammate.
share this with you. So I was
Please.
chatting with a team member of mine who I work very closely with and very much trust their opinions. And I was chatting with them and sharing that, a particular instance at work and saying, I was trying to give my advice and I was trying, and I don't know if it was being received properly.
Mm,
And she stopped me in my tracks by saying, well, maybe they wanted feedback instead of advice. And I thought,
wow.
oh, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Like, I had never stopped to think about that there's a difference between feedback, which is, hey, I did this. What did you think about this that I've already done? And
Mm,
I'd like your advice, which is, what can I do differently going forward? How do you think I should proceed? What can I change? There's a difference. And I had never thought about it before till she said it. And I actually said to her, oh my goodness, hang on. Like, that's something huge. And she was like, oh, well, she was like stumbling. She's like, I didn't know it was such a big deal. No, it's a big deal. Like that really spoke to me because I think
volume.
I know I'm guilty of always jumping to advice.
Mm.
I'm guilty of always, as
Guilty
soon as
in
you
a
ask me,
good way, but guilty
yeah,
in a
like,
good way. You're always about how can I help?
yeah,
How can I whatever?
yes,
And you know what? It is a gift that you were able to pause. In the media now, everybody's about taking that pause, whether it's 5 minutes, 5 seconds, or 5 months,
yeah.
and so forth. But you were able to take that pause and take that to a whole nother level. And I wonder if people actually do that on a daily basis.
Mm,
So, what was it for you that made you pause? Was it the way it was said to you that, hey, there's a difference? Because you were curious. I think your curiosity, and I'm always the same
yeah.
too. You want to help, you want to whatever. But then I'm curious when people say, well, maybe they needed this and not that. So, what was it for you? Was it your curiosity?
Yeah, it was the curiosity and it was the fact that I had never thought about there being a difference. I
Mm.
had never distinguished like feedback, advice, it's all the same. It's not the same. It's
It's
not the
not the
same.
same.
Advice is going forward. Feedback is something that's already happened. You're talking about something that's happened already. And
Hmm.
so I had never thought about it that way. And instantly I thought, I'm always giving advice. I'm always jumping to, what you could do next time? You know what you should do next week? Do you know what? That's just me. That's just how I operate. But maybe they just wanted to hear, what did you think about that one thing that's already done?
Right. And so, what do you see as the difference? I'll tell you what I see as the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah,
Because, like you said, it's very similar. Some people are like,
this.
well, probably even listening to this saying, well, what's the difference? It's not only a timing thing, in my humble opinion. And then we'll do a role play because I text you about something
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
And I said, hey, and again, I was about to do the exact same thing. But then I pull back and I also realize that when people are doing something, and whether that's speaking, social media, video, a dance competition, singing kumbaya, really doesn't matter. That's 99.9% of the time extremely special to that person.
yeah,
So jumping in and saying, oh, well, you could do this differently and that, it sort of strips away at, well, I felt like I'm really accomplished. Like I know I could do better and different. And
yeah.
so it sort of, I feel, minimizes people. And my kids actually taught me that, believe it or not, and many, many years ago. And so I feel like I had texted you and I had said to you, oh, actually, sorry. just to go back to my original question, there's so much to talk about
Yeah.
regarding your topic, is that the difference to me about advice is, yes, is how can you do it differently? What could you have done differently? This is the way, I know Sally did it, Chris did it, I did it, and it worked, right? And
Yeah.
that is so valuable
Yeah.
sometimes to some people. Feedback, which I love, I always ask people, so what did you think?
Yeah.
Meaning I've done something, critique it. Again, be respectful,
Yeah.
be kind,
Yeah.
because people cannot be so kind. So it's critiquing it in a way that, you did this really great. I would love to see more of this. You don't have to be negative, because some people, stay away from feedback
Yeah.
because they're like, well, I really disliked when she did this. Well, can you find a way to say it differently? So what do you look at the difference between feedback and advice? How do you differentiate? Because it's so similar.
For me, feedback, like you said, it's taking a particular, whether it's, a show, a podcast, an article, something that you've already done. And you're asking someone, like you said, to critique it, positive and negative. Let's go through it. Let's dig into it. What did you like? What did you not like? How did it make you feel? How did it, that to me, that's feedback.
Yeah.
Whereas advice is giving you a roadmap. Let's talk about what you're going to do going forward. Let's talk about what you could change. Let's talk about a direction you should take. Let's talk about what that looks like in the future. Like, that to me is advice on, here's what I'd do. Here's the direction I would go. Here's the roadmap I'd suggest. So to me, it is very directional, because advice is the moving forward, what you're going to do next.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's share with some of our audience members how we could do that. So let's use you and I.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
sort of analyze it afterwards, because you haven't a clue what I'm going to say. And I got this exact feedback from, like I said to you, one of my sons who's, uber successful in the social media space. And, he came back to me and said, do you want to have your videos be more successful? I'm like, hell to the yes. Anytime he gives me advice,
Yeah.
I've got like a pen and paper and where do I sign up, right? And I'm like, absolutely. And, he told me this thing and I'm like, oh my God, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then I was like, oh, I hate that. It's like 5 times the amount of work. And I tried it actually worked and whatever. So I'm going to play the same with you. So I can come to you and say, Chris, I think you should do this, and this.
Yeah.
But I would never do that. I do prefer to say, hey, you are doing, and you really are, I love you in so many different capacities.
Absolutely.
In the work that you're doing. But on social, and I've even got people that message me, can you introduce me to Chris? I love her. And I've got all your super fans, right? And yes, I've got to, okay, anyways, I do have to introduce you to about 10 people that keep bugging me. Nevertheless, see how our mind works.
I know.
So essentially, you're doing a great job on everything, which is why you and I continue to work together with video. Do you want some little tips and tricks that have worked for me and many others about your social media?
Yes, I do. But I'm just going to point out, because of the conversation. So you saying you're doing a great job, I love your stuff, that's your feedback. So now I'm saying, yes, I want your advice. Give me your advice on how I could do it differently, how I could be better, I'm asking for your advice.
Okay. Yeah, see, and I look at it as feedback. Okay, yeah.
You see what I mean?
The feedback for me is super simple. Change nothing about your content. All, hashed, everything is perfect. Remove the watermark from TikTok.
Okay.
And want to know why?
Yeah.
Because the algorithm in Instagram does not want to have the watermark there. It is such a pain, because what I used to do is connect all my socials together.
Yeah.
And now obviously I have some, and it leaves the watermark, but it brings down your viewership. It sees TikTok and it puts you to the bottom of the list.
Okay.
So if you were to fill, because you've got the original.
Yeah.
Right? And so Yes, you'd have to add your sound. Yes, if you have music, it's a pain. But try it and let us know, like,
Yeah,
2 days, 2 weeks, a month later, let us know how it works out for you.
I'm going to. I'm going to try that.
So did that feel like, not hurtful, but kind of like, oh, I thought I was doing a good job? Or were you like, I get excited when I get feedback
Yeah.
because you don't have to take everything everybody says
No.
either. And you don't have to take
Yeah.
what I say. I just know it worked
Yeah.
for him. It worked for me and everybody I've shared that with. And I've never noticed that on your feed before. I don't know if that's new or not.
No, I don't think it's new because I usually just auto share it. Like,
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, no, actually, sorry, now I'm just thinking of it. It's going to be all about Instagram and TikTok. But yes, so either one you do
Yeah.
first, it will share the watermark, and the other one doesn't like it because it wants it to be original content.
Right. No, that makes sense. And to answer your question, how did that feel? I think that the way you present it is exactly how advice should be presented. So first, I think the most important thing that you do, and you do this all the time, and I think it's amazing, is that you ask, like, do you want advice? Because sometimes we're not in a space. Like, sometimes we're just not in the space to hear it. We're just, whether it's good or bad. Like, sometimes we're like, you know what? I know that wasn't great and I don't want to hear about it right now. Or sometimes we're like, you know what? I'm just reveling in the moment. Like, I just love that I just did this and I'm really proud of it. And like, maybe next week I'll want feedback or advice, but right now I'm just going to enjoy it.
You're like, I'm good.
Yeah. Like what?
Right?
Sometimes we just want to enjoy it for a minute. Like just,
So ask.
Yeah. So I love the ask. I think that's important. Do you want feedback and advice? Like, do you want my opinion? I think that's a really good start. And I think that the other thing is great is, like you said this before, and you did it when you gave the advice, is it doesn't have to be all, here's what you should change. How about, hey, I love that you did this. Hey, I love the hashtags. I love like you pointed out the positive too. So it wasn't just, hey, here's what you should change. It was, here's what I love about what you're doing. And here's what I would maybe do differently or give a try if it were me.
Yes. And the fact, thank you, and you do the same with me, is it's also worked for me. So I think sharing
proof
our
of concept, that's big. Yeah.
There's evidence, right? There's proof in the pudding. So I think that is massive. And I love the fact that, you know, you and I can have those kinds of conversations. And in our community, I hope, you know, people, you know, even if they were to put questions, you and I are always answering people's questions and comments and whatnot, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever the case may be. But I think it's important to ask the questions and be okay with what the answer is. Because you know what? I don't think I've ever been sorry for asking the questions. I have felt like I've been kicked in the so-and-so a few times, and I was kind of like, man, that was unpleasant.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I had to sit with it I remember somebody who I love and adore, and you and I will chat about who that was at a later date, but gave me this feedback and basically tore one strip up the side of me and down the other. And I was not expecting that. And that's just the way she is. She's very direct. And she was bang on, spot on everything she said. But it hurt. Like, it was a little painful and raw. But she was right. And I was so... and I asked. It's not like she said, oh, and by the way, you know, I asked the question. So that's sort of another little piece for people to think about. Have maybe a little bit of a thicker skin. You and I talk about, you know, it's business. It's not personal. No, my business is personal.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that too?
Absolutely. My business is definitely personal, for sure. And I'll tell you. So I was just talking to actually a longtime mentor of mine. I happened to see him at an event yesterday, and we were chatting, and he was like, "Oh, it's so great. I see you doing all this great stuff, and like, good for you." And I said, you know, I talk about you all the time. I talk about you when I'm on podcasts. I talk about you when I'm doing career development conversations. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, everyone says that they're ready for feedback, but not everybody actually is. And he took a chance. There are people who are really good at feedback. And there are people that just tell you what you want to hear. So you need to find yourself a mentor. Like you said, this person of yours who gave you hard feedback to hear, but you learned from it and you grew from it and you did better things because of it. And now, whoever that was that gave you that feedback, that's someone you know you can trust and you can go to give you real, raw feedback and advice. And you know that it's going to be impactful. So I spent a lot of time as a very successful sales individual who would get feedback like, yo, no, you're great. No, keep going. You're doing good. You're, and that's great. And it's great to hear and it feels good and it makes you happy, but it doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help you do better. And even if you're doing great, we can always all do better. So this one manager said to me, do you want my advice on how to grow, on how to move forward, on how to become management? And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, are you sure? Are you sure? Because I'm going to tell you if you want it, but it won't sit easy. It won't be easy to hear. It's not going to be easy for me to tell you, but I'll give it to you. And he did. And he was great. And he said, listen, you're a fantastic salesperson. You're a fantastic advisor. You're doing great with your clients and your clients love you. But the individuals you work with see you as overly confident, hard to work with, intimidating, not approachable. And it wasn't easy. Like, it wasn't easy. I sat there listening, going, in my head, not out loud, in my head going, he's wrong. That's not right. I'm approachable. Like, right? Yeah. That's what goes through our head, right? Immediately, our immediate reaction. But I sat there and I said to him, I'm going to need a minute. Like, I'm going to need to just sit with this and we'll talk about this tomorrow. And I had to take that away and get over the hurt, because it always hurts. It doesn't matter. Even if you're like, yep, that's true, it still hurts for a minute to be like, ouch. Like,
it's ripping off the Band-Aid.
Yeah. And so then I thought, you know what? He's not wrong. Like, I don't think I was unapproachable, but obviously that's how I was being perceived. So
maybe by some. And I clapped about the confident part of it. And, I'm just going to say this, and I know what you're saying and you learned from it and whatever, and you have probably changed things, whatever. But I guess I love who you are. And it's the women who are sort of a lot to handle that are the most impactful.
Absolutely. And I say all the time.
We're not quiet. We're not whatever. We're not the same. We don't fit in the box. But yes, and for some people, just as I'm imagining you're thinking and processing this, I'm celebrating you, because I think it's all the things he said are fantastic. And I think sometimes the women around you, I don't know who they were, or the people around you might think, God, I wish I was more like her.
And you could absolutely be right. And I say all the time, if I'm too much, go find less. Like that, I'm very confident in who I am. And I am a lot. And I'm okay with that. I'm a lot and I'm okay with it. Yeah. If I'm too much, go find less. But I had goals that I wasn't able to achieve until he said, this is why you can't achieve them. He gave me that advice too. If this is your goal, this might help you get there. And he was right. I worked with him over long periods of time on how can I show them that I am approachable? How can I show them that I am really great to work with and on a team with, and I'm a great leader? And how can I show them this? I know that to be true about myself. They weren't right about that being the case. They weren't right about me not being a team player, but I needed to show them that I was a team player. And he worked with me to do that. And I mean, my career has escalated and escalated and escalated since. And
I know.
So it's leaders that are willing to take the chance to give you that honest feedback and then advice on how to move forward that is so impactful. But we have to be ready for it. You have to honestly sit back, not react, take it in, soak it up, and then think, okay, am I going to fight it or am I going to work towards the end goal?
Yes. And you said one key thing, well, many key things, but this one thing is make sure it's somebody you trust, because there are people that will give you feedback and advice that maybe is not
Absolutely.
going to be beneficial and is not going to help, and for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And we all know what the negative reasons are. So I think you taking that away, and like I said, I had to, clear my sunburn and, take that away and say, what truth is there here?
Yes.
And, again, it's how do you process that? In sports, it's ridiculous, but there's a 24-hour rule in hockey. I think it should be a 72-hour rule. Like if you're pissed off, coach didn't play you, didn't give you enough ice time, sat you, didn't even get you dressed for whatever reason, benched you, think about it. Think about what happened leading up to it. And if it was really unfair,
Yeah.
maybe if you didn't work as hard, whatever, then fine, so be it. But I bet you can always, from somebody you trust,
Yeah.
find the message that will resonate with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the fact that he says, "Oh, you're overconfident," or "You seem too confident," I'm like, tick, right? Okay, so does confidence make other people feel sometimes less than? Yes, it does. And people will say to me, "Oh, how do you walk into a boardroom of 400 people or whatever and just get up and talk?" And this was in the beginning, obviously. Now this is what I do for a living. I used to be terrified. I'd throw up the morning
Yeah.
before, or the night before, the morning of, da 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 da. And I'm like, I'm terrified. And being authentic and being real to people, I think was probably and is for sure your superpower, but was maybe the way you also got over that piece of it. So if people just realize, look, I am just as human as you are. I've got the same fears. I've got the same obstacles and hurdles, because maybe and I don't like to say maybe people see you up here, but maybe people see your confidence is up here, and for whatever reasons theirs is not. That could be something they're taken aback by, which is unfortunate. And I know we're all coming into new confidence and new things and whatnot, but I love the confidence piece in you.
And I do too. And so I didn't work on reducing my confidence. What I
No,
worked
I
on
thought you did.
was sharing it. And so what I worked on was making sure that individuals knew that my level of confidence did not decrease their level of confidence, and that I constantly tried to encourage them to be as confident. So instead of feeling like I was overly confident, we can all be confident. We can all do better. We can all shine at the same time. And so that's what I put the focus on, is how can I share that confidence? How can I share that feeling of like, we can all do this, as opposed to I can do this.
I love that.
And so, and I mean, like, look what I get to do today. That's a big part of what I do, right? Is that sharing that we can all be successful. We can all do bigger and better things. Not I can do big. I mean, I can't do bigger and better things, but we can. We can all do bigger and better things.
And you are, you really nailed it. The big part of I Am Unbreakable is very collaborative.
Yes.
And it is lifting and inspiring and impacting other people. And so you're exactly the same. That's why I said your mission and our vision is identical. And you are a person of love and service. And I think if you come at it from that way, like you said, from the confidence piece, like I don't think you can ever go wrong. And you're wanting to share how I got there.
Yes.
I can share my confidence. Come with me, and you mentor people. That's such a huge part of it. And I so, applaud and love you for that piece alone. But I know we've got some time running here, and I know you've got to run off to a meeting. So let's just sort of finish off with one thing. I had the absolute pleasure of being a guest in the keynote at one of your events. And let's chat about the question. And maybe you can pose the question that one of your amazing teammates asked me. And I was so taken aback by that. I think I sucked all the air out of the room of the studio to think that women still felt like that. It actually saddened me. So the question, how was the question asked?
Yeah, so the question that was asked was, how do we take the emotion out of our professional meetings, circumstances, feedback sessions? Like, how do we take the emotion out of our professional lives. And you're
As a woman,
as a
that was the
yeah,
part, because I
yeah,
don't think a man would ever ask that question. And my first thing was, like I said, I sucked all the air out of the room, and I'm like, you don't.
yeah,
And, as long as you're respectful, as like, I'm not saying go in and have an absolute shit fit on somebody. Again, it would depend on what she was referring to, but being able to be your true authentic self in a respectful, integral, honest way,
yeah,
to me, it's like hats off. You are a
yeah,
human being. You are showing a human side. And everybody across the globe now, they don't care about the beautiful logos. They don't care about the shiny things. They want to know the founders, the women and men that are driving these businesses and that are driving things. And that includes human emotion.
yes,
And so I just want to share with the audience, because it was a private event that wasn't there. I'm sitting there talking about woohoo, rockstar confidence and all this other stuff. And then I had this other great question that made me cry my eyelashes off.
yeah,
And it was like, if you could spend a dinner with anybody in the world, who is here or not, who would it be? And I don't know why, just tears welted up in my eyes. And I said, my dad. And see, now I can talk about my dad. It can be okay.
yeah,
And all of that stuff. It was just his birthday. And there was some
yeah,
other things that I've been thinking about him a lot. And as everybody knows, he's my hero, will forever be that. And I was just like, and I said, I wasn't sobbing, but tears were coming out. And I'm like, look, you caught me off guard. I didn't even know. Like, it happened. So,
yeah.
so what?
And it was so impactful, and it was real, and it was relatable, and it was like no one was sitting on the call thinking, oh, I can't believe she shed a tear. Like no one thought that. Everyone was sharing stories in the chat. Oh, my dad, my grandfather, my mom, my sister, like it was so authentic and relatable, and it made everyone feel like, yes, I know exactly how she feels right now because I feel that about this person. And
I
I,
love
I
that.
think that all of us need to share more about those real stories.
I 100%, which is one of the many reasons we're doing this today. And thank you for saying that. And then it was just sort of funny because in the same breath, talking about the emotional intelligence and how do I be as a woman. And as I said, I'm in front of 200 plus people talking about rockstar confidence, and I shed a tear because of somebody that I've lost.
Yeah,
I think that's appropriate and that's okay.
yeah,
And I'll sort of end off, because I know we've got to wrap, that I just did an amazing interview with Shelley. And her and I, again, we started talking. She also lost her dad. And we were both sobbing. And I
yeah,
mean, I think we were both like
yeah,
sobbing, not
yeah.
like whatever, but it was just these wonderful love and memories and
Real emotion, real
impactful
emotion.
time.
Yeah,
Yes, and impactful times that
yeah,
how can you not recollect that
yeah,
part of you.
yeah,
And so anyways, it sort of reiterated to me, because I never thought, we were talking about so many other things, I never thought in a million years. And I brought up your event and I said, somebody asked me this question, and I had my eyelashes falling off, and
yeah,
we just kind of laughed, saying, no, like, you got to be who you
yeah,
are
yeah.
at the time. So I love you, darling. I
Oh,
am so, again, blessed and honored to have had this podcast with you. Loved what we chatted about. Anybody who has any comments or
yeah,
questions, put them in the comments below, and Chris or I will get back to you. Big
absolutely.
love to you.
Love as always. It's been a pleasure.